questions need answers, and we're digging for them today. Is there cause for concern at this beautiful campus along the St. Johns River? Jacksonville University's president explains the steps he'll take to address the issues of finances in a tough environment. Then, did pollsters get it right? The continuing evaluation of what happened in Vote 2024, plus shoppers' opinions on what's going on in the economy and what to expect for the holidays. That and more on This Week in Jacksonville. And so glad you're with us today. It's been a good run for Jacksonville University under President Tim Cost, and he says he expects that to continue. The business professional who graduated from the school then came back to lead it. He spoke with me this week about missing a key financial indicator last June. Expenses have grown at the Arlington School, but Tim Cost says he's optimistic about the future and that big tuition increases will not happen. I asked him bluntly, is JU in trouble financially?
Yeah, I would say no. I mean, it's a fair comment. If you've never missed a debt payment, and you've never stubbed your toe, and you've never tripped a wire, which we did this time on that debt coverage ratio, you're going to get people's attention on these things. And I think most of the reporting's been generally accurate. People, if they say one of the problems is too much money spent on the medical school, of course that's not true, because we haven't, one, started it, and two, it's not ours to spend money on. It's going to be our partners.
There won't be any money coming out of the pockets of JU on that project.
Right, it's a fantastic, world-class, the largest medical education college in the country, LECOM. That's our partner, and they're well on their way. They'll have their own announcements. They're our partner. So the question of kind of what is the status of things, we're in the short term, we're addressing the challenges of fiscal 2025, which is the year we're in and will end in 6 months. And I'm confident we're in good shape on that. The frankly more exciting, more interesting, strategic undertaking for a school like ours in this landscape for higher ed is how do you want to position yourself? How do you want to fund yourself? How do you want to present yourself to potential students out in the 26 to 2030 timeframe? And that's what we're spending a lot of time on.
That's something that as we've talked over this last decade, that's kind of the focus of who the students, what the campus would look like, and who would be on campus at JU. That's changed, and some of those reasons that you talked about before. You wanted to reposition, we want to reflect what our community needs. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think if anybody thinks about a university today, just go ahead and put in your favorite search engine, American colleges and universities, and you're going to get a very wide range that never existed before, all the way back hundreds of years, of whether or not it's wise for a young person to get a college degree. I mean, everybody from Thomas Edison to Winston Churchill has had to say, what sets you free is your education. So we're in a moment in America right now where many institutions are being called into question. I understand that. We all understand that, including whether or not all the young men and women should go to college, whether they should go to trade school, whether they should sit out a year, whether they can start their own webcast, whether they can. So that's the general backdrop. What you're referencing is the idea that in a city like this one, in a moment like this one, we can be a very good and helpful partner. We not only partner with good schools like UNF and FSCJ and Edward Waters, we partner with the healthcare, we partner with all the technology, we partner with the not-for-profits. That's the role the local private university should play, in my opinion. We have students on our campus coming in right in January from 48 states and over 50 foreign countries. That's the role we should play. We should be a magnet out there. We've privatized the risk of recruiting. All right? We're out there all around the country bringing in top students. We set a price for tuition, room and board, and some small fees, and then we discount or scholarship off of that as students try to decide, do they want to go to a school like ours? We're one of 30 private universities in the state of Florida. Most people would know Miami, Jacksonville, Stetson, Rollins, Tampa. Those are really the 5 that people think of. And then there's 12 public universities. And what the privates and the publics tend to do is try to get to, we do certainly, to a price that is not crushing in terms of debt. Students, I mean, no matter what anybody reads about what it, quote, costs to go to Jacksonville University, in the main, students are looking at scholarshiping that we put together for them privately in the range of north of 60% off of what you would see, which was roughly $45,000. So you get a student in here spending between $12,000 and $16,000 or $18,000, then room and board on top of that, then you're not reading about the things as the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal are writing now. students are graduating with $250,000. Well, if you get a medical degree from a Harvard, perhaps, but not here.
One of the things that we saw was, and you just said, hey, I'm optimistic, I feel good about where we'll be at the end of the fiscal year.
This year.
What are some of the, I guess, measures that you as president or as a leadership team have to take in order to change the cost structure or revenue versus the expenses? Because I'm reading that, hey, expenses have gone up and all of these sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's one of the inaccuracies, and it's all very fair reporting. In the short term, when you're trying to work on the year that you're in, you would normally focus on expenses. We have the ability to reduce what we spend over the next 6 months much more quickly than you have the ability to increase. Look at the revenues of a university like this one. So relatively light because we're private. It's not where you turn toward Tallahassee and they would give you $100 or $200 or $300 million. We're grateful for what we get. But so the main revenue streams of a university like this one are what they are at all private universities: tuition, room and board, and fundraising. And so in a world right now where those are optimized, you're saying, okay, even if we were able to increase pricing here, let's say 3% or 3.5%, that's not going to benefit the year you're in. So in the short term, when I say we're confident in the fiscal year we're in, that's primarily internal cost cutting, which we have the capability to do on a base of $120 million of both revenues and expenses.
So certain people are going to be concerned, does that mean tuition is going to go up for people who are here? And I think what I saw was attributed to you in a statement last week was that annually costs go up less than 4% when it comes to tuition. Would there be more of a surge in the cost there to make all the balance sheet work?
Yeah, definitively no. We will not be raising tuition more than 4%. Usually what we've done is we keep a very close eye on interest rates and what we know families around again, we're sampling all around the country, all around the world due to our student body. And even when inflation was running up 9.2% in March of 22, we raised tuition at, I think, that point 3.9%. So that's the range people should be thinking. Yeah, there's not going to be any new additional increases to tuition beyond what we would normally do.
Cuts coming to faculty or staff or programs or things that the university already offers?
Yeah, when you look at expenses now, you're talking about now more strategically 2026 through 2030, which is a reasonable strategic planning window. I think it's fair to say all those things are on the table. If you look at locations where we might teach, technologies we bring to bear, I think all of the corporate friends you would have would tell you the massive productivity power inherent in just today's version of artificial intelligence tools are spectacular. We'll make decisions as to whether it's back office, that sort of thing. We're going to take a look at the technology. We're going to take a look at the hiring practices and what we thought we were going to do, and we'll see if that's one of the places a lot of corporations go is they don't actually release people that currently work there. They don't hire people they were planning to hire, which you had, quote, budgeted for, which gives you a saving. So I wouldn't rule anything out. And to me, that's the difference between fiscal year 25 that we're in. Remember, the attention's being paid to a year that's been over for 6 months. We're in the year we're in, and I'm confident we will deliver on that small surplus. It's the 26 to 30 strategic window where you start to say, is that a field you want to go into? There's opportunities you and I have talked about before. There are many things not taught in this city or in this region that a school like ours could look into. I said that 10 years ago about things like law and medicine and cyber, and they've ended up being very solid, and they've ended up being great for us. We plussed up on healthcare, and we did the other things, as I mentioned, especially aviation, marine science, public policy down the line. We've made a much bigger investment in military. So our NROTC program is as large as it's ever been. We're very, very pleased with how the NROTC is going. We've graduated almost 2,000 young men and women from there over time. So to your question about would you consider this, or this, I'm telling you a good strategic plan would look at all of those things. It would look at the timing of them. It would look at the cadence of when you're going to do them, and would look at what technology you want to apply to do them. So if we were thinking maybe we would do a lot of hiring in area B or D so that we could get to this, we may decide not to go down that path if we, in this, got to put a bright light on your strategy now for 26 to 30. I'm excited to do it. I would tell you in a strange way, the discussion that's going on of the year that's passed has sharpened the discussion here on campus for the next 4 years. I'm grateful for it.
Check out This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. President Cost goes into even more detail on the concerns about revenue, debt, bond payments, and how university leadership will navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead. You can find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. and you're going to find it right now on News4Jax Plus under the channel This Week in Jacksonville. You also find This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition available wherever you find your podcast, like Apple, Spotify, or Google. All right, when we come back today, I'm looking forward to introducing you to Micah Roberts, his insights on the economy and the election and all of that next on This Week in Jacksonville. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Micah Roberts joins us today. Micah's a partner at Public Opinion Strategies, a Florida State graduate, and a first-time guest on our show. It's great to have you in studio with us. Maybe briefly explain what is Public Opinion Strategies.
Yeah, we are one of the largest Republican polling firms in the country, and we do campaign polling as well as media polling, like for NBC News and CNBC, all throughout the year.
All right. Yes, I saw the description about what you're even doing now. And I guess you're part of this bipartisan team for the Wall Street Journal NBC News poll, the quarterly CNBC All-America Economic Survey. And so this economic survey, that's where I wanted to start today, just released this past week. What are the major takeaways for you there?
Well, we do every December a holiday spending poll. We understand where is the holiday spending as relation to past years, and what are some of the trends in spending this year. Not a big jump in spending. In fact, kind of a little bit of a dip since last year, but pretty steady. Inflation's definitely holding spending down still, and that's an important thing that we've tracked all throughout the year and the last couple of years. People are still really struggling with inflation.
We've heard it the last several months, the last year or so. Absolutely. There's that component between, hey, with the inflation, my dollar doesn't go as far. And I saw in the poll also, it feels like prices are higher for gifts.
For sure. And what's happening is people are actually spending less because of inflation, not spending more on the same gifts.
This was interesting, and I hadn't thought about it, but it makes sense. There's a shorter holiday spending season this year because Thanksgiving was so late, right?
That's right. So some of that Black Friday deals started earlier, but still about half of people haven't gone out and done their holiday spending as recently as last week. So there's a lot of spending still to come, which is good for the economy, but maybe not so good for those who have waited to get their spending done so far.
A little behind there. One of the things we've seen over these last few years, and I know you guys are tracking it also, but the amount of people who aren't going to the brick and mortars, they're saying, I'm going to do it online. That's still increasing, it seems.
We've been tracking that for over a decade, and we got into it pretty early, but it's been amazing to see how much shopping happens online with Amazon and other stores like that. But now things are even moving online to social media, where more and more people, about 20% of people, say that they're actually buying directly from social media posts and things like TikTok stores. So that's kind of new for me. But that's an emerging thing. So a lot of the spending gets harder and harder to see. You're not going to see it at St. John's Town Center quite as much as you have in the past.
Yeah, and I know that I was thinking about that. We're talking about TikTok could be banned by the end of the year. And TikTok influencers or whatever, hey, this is going to hurt my business because that shopping, as you mentioned, has gone to social media there. Latest consumer price index, a little bit at odds with the American attitudes on inflation.
Yeah, you know, inflation can hit hard, and then there's ripple. The ripple throughout the economy, really, it doesn't stop with individuals. And so while all of these government reports might be looking a little bit cheerier, you know, what people really look at is their grocery bills. And until those change, people are not going to feel much better about inflation.
Well, and this may lead into the next segment, which I want to talk about Vote 2024 and what have you. But when it comes to economic attitudes, expectations, people who are responded in the survey here, what are their feelings? What are their attitudes?
They're pretty sour still about the current economy. But looking forward over the next 12 months, there's been a huge surge in optimism about what's to come. People are feeling like things are going to get better, more so than really at any time in the last 4 years. So you have to look back to October 2020 to see this type of economic optimism that we measured just in this poll. Politically, that's being driven by partisanship, and a lot more Republicans feeling good about what's going to happen after January 20th when Trump comes back into office.
And we will, so we'll get into it more in our next segment. So why don't we save that for the next segment here? And I'm going to invite you to stay with us. Micah's going to stay with us too. And we're going to change the focus in this final segment, looking at voter opinions that shaped the national election. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Micah Roberts is with us, a partner at Public Opinion Strategies. Let's dive into what happened in election 2024 and kind of who saw this coming. What many have said, oh, that was a landslide for Republicans and specifically President-elect Trump. Did we see this coming? Did polling get it right?
I got it right. CNBC and NBC News had this either at a +2 Trump or dead even. Trump's going to carry the popular vote nationally by about 1.5 points. So that's about as well as a polling estimation can get. Of course, you'd like to nail it right on, but that's about as close as you get. So a lot of the national polling got it right. Of course, like in anything, some people did get it wrong. And the landslide was really because all of the swing states went in one direction, as they often do. But overall, it's a pretty tight race. I mean, look at Congress. It's still neck and neck. You eked out some wins in the Senate, but getting that trifecta, it was on a razor's edge.
Yeah, Michael, one of the things we were just talking about before we went to commercial was the economy. And this was fascinating. You just shared with me today. So President Biden's economic approval at just 36%. That's kind of consistent with the polling there. That seemed like that was a big factor in what happened in the election.
Yeah, and that's another way that the polling did get things right. I mean, they saw that those types of numbers are really, really bad for a president. 36, he was down as low as 33. You can't win with those types of numbers on the economy. And of course, those haven't improved. He's going to be ending in a low note as he ends his presidency.
Yeah, in about a month from now. Confidence in the stock market, that was something that showed up in the latest poll results here.
Absolutely. As people got more excited about what's to come, they're looking to get back and they're thinking it's a good time to invest. So over 40% saying it's a good time to invest. Again, we haven't seen that number since before the Biden administration either. So we're kind of returning to this kind of economic optimism that the Trump administration left office with.
When it comes to the political landscape, as I was reading some of the conclusions and whatever, not a time over the past 2 years that the fundamentals of political landscape, so I think that would be direction, approval, or economy, looked favorable for the Democrats and the incumbent party.
Yeah, so a lot of what happened in 2024 is Democrats just had a really uphill battle in terms of winning a popular vote. And that's what happens with incumbency. It can be very hard to change opinions and say, no, we're going to do better when things aren't going so well in the country overall. And the switch to Harris, she didn't have many answers about how she was going to change. That really didn't help.
It seemed like a lot of enthusiasm right at the beginning, especially for Democratic Party and some of those undecideds. But that was a tough task to carry that from beginning of August all the way through Election Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, some people have said maybe she didn't have enough time, and maybe she had too much time because she really did peak early and just didn't carry through, especially against somebody as kind of dynamic and out there as Trump is with all the different ways that he was communicating.
The money spent by Democrats versus what the Trump campaign spent, a big difference. And the one who spent less won. That seems like that's unusual in modern day politics.
It's very unusual, and I think you owe all of that to the enthusiasm that we measured around the Trump brand. People are more enthusiastic about him being president in our polling than any other president we've measured, including Barack Obama. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that I'm processing that for just a second there. Yeah, you know, one of the things in some of the conclusions I saw was the 3 I's. Maybe explain what the 3 I's are and how they related to the president-elect earning the victory in November.
Sure. I kind of came up with this right before the election, but the 3 I's are inflation, immigration, and indignation. And they are the keys to why Trump won and Harris lost. And the two kind of feed to the third, meaning, you know, the problems about inflation, it wasn't transitory. And I think the Trump campaign did a good job of saying, hey, this wasn't a problem we needed to have, and we'll make it better. On immigration, the border's not secure. And he did a good job of hammering those points home. And I think both of those led to the third, which is people were just kind of ready for change. And they were kind of indignant about the direction of the country. And for the core Republican side, I think they were angry enough to come out and vote in mass, and inspired really as well, enough to come out and vote in mass for a second Trump term.
Yeah. Well, Micah, I appreciate it. I know we're out of time here, but I know some of what you just talked about, and even that immigration point was something that Latino voters in your polling said, hey, we agree, border's not secure, this is an issue, all of those other things. But I love that you were able to share some of that data that you guys collected and analyzed for us. Micah Roberts, thanks so much.
Thank you, Kent.
All right, so next time it's our Hand on Government segment. Also this month, a year-ender episode. We're going to do that with Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17. And then you can always find us online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.